I'm going to give you 10 rapid reactions to West Virginia's opening win against Mount St. Mary's, 70-54, here on Mountaineer Moment. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, welcome in, everybody. Mountaineers just won their season opener against the Mount St. Mary's Mountaineers by a final score of 70-54. This is episode number 74 of Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. And I'm going to give you on this episode a quick one, rapid reaction, 10 quick notes, 10 quick things that I learned and maybe you could learn about this West Virginia team after their first game of the season. Again, we already did our extensive recap episode to the West Virginia win over Mount St. Mary's. You can go check that one out on our channel. Available on all our platforms, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, wherever you are tuned in. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, leave a comment, and join the Mountaineer Moment movement. So I'm going to give you 10 things. Some of them are obvious, some of them maybe not so obvious, but 10 things that I take away from the Mountaineer win. First, number one, simple. Jasper Floyd and his performance in this game saved us from something that we might not have wanted, would have been a loss in this game. 70-54, and it was just a 6-point game at halftime. It was a 6-point game with just a few minutes left in the second half before we pulled away and ended up with a 16-point victory. But Jasper Floyd was the reason. He was the catalyst for this win. When everybody else was struggling, Honor Huff was struggling, Tracy Eaglestaff didn't do anything, Harlan Obioha didn't get involved, Brennan Lorient, he had a really, really great game as well, so shout out to him. But Jasper Floyd was the engine that drove everything. He was the quarterback on the court, quarterback in the offense, getting everybody in their spots, and led the way defensively, making a difference on that end as well. He had 5 steals, 25 points, 4 assists, 5 steals, and I would say he even had a better game than that box score indicates. Jasper Floyd was massive. We know how important he's going to be all season long for the Mountaineers, but that is quick note, rapid reaction, whatever you want to call it. Number one is Jasper Floyd absolutely saved this team tonight. I don't think there's any other way around it. That's number one. Number two, a takeaway that I have is do not take this the wrong way. Do not. Number two is Tracy Eaglestaff, and I'm slightly concerned. It's one game. I get it. Not hitting a panic button by any means, but he had 1 point tonight, 0 of 3 from the field. Just never got into flow, never looked comfortable. And I would be less concerned if that wasn't the same exact thing that I saw in the scrimmage against Wheeling. West Virginia won a scrimmage against Wheeling, and Tracy Eaglestaff didn't do a whole lot. Didn't look good, didn't look comfortable. His lone point tonight came on a 3-point shot, when he was fouled and knocked down 1 out of the 3 free throw attempts that he got. He just doesn't look right. And, there's 2 things we know about the Mountaineers heading, as we inched closer toward, the season opener. One was that they played a secret scrimmage against Maryland and played really well, and Tracy Eaglestaff and Honor Huff lit it up from beyond the arc and scored a lot of points. And then but we didn't have footage of that. And then, other than one little Twitter or X and Instagram little video. But then you watch the game against Wheeling. Harlan Obioha dominates, as he should have, against a D2 school when he's 7 foot. And Tracy Eaglestaff struggled. He just did. And then you're like, okay, all right, well, how's he going to look in the season opener? Well, the story again is Tracy Eaglestaff struggled. 0 for 3, right? It's not like he was up firing shots and just missing, but just the eye test, he looked confused, looked lost. I don't know. Didn't play well. So it's a little concerning. Do I think he's going to turn around? 100%. 100% do I think. And turn around is not even the right way to say that because it's one game and, just I'm not doing that. Like I'm not thinking along those lines. He needs to turn everything around and redo this and redo that. I just think he is, and we've talked about it already on Mountaineer Moment in previous episodes, this is an adjustment to him playing Big 12, playing on a team in the Big 12 in West Virginia, where he comes from North Dakota, where he was the guy on the offense. He was the guy. averaged almost 19 points a game. The offense, everything ran through him, and rightfully so, given what he was playing with and the guys he was playing with and the ability that they had to score. Now, in Morgantown, there's other guys that can score. You got to spread the ball around. You got to kick it and move it, and you're not a ball-dominant guy anymore, or at least not as much as you used to be, and that's a big adjustment. And I think, at least from the two things we've seen in a scrimmage and in the season opener, he just seems like that's an adjustment that he's having a little bit of a hard time with, and I get it. He's going to figure it out. I do know that. Thirdly, that's 1 and 2. Number 3 is DJ Thomas, freshman forward in his performance. Really, really encouraged by that. We mentioned heading into the opening game against Mount St. Mary's. We mentioned it right here. We said, okay, no Chance Moore. Okay, no Jackson Fields. Who is going to step up? Who's going to go and get some minutes and earn their minutes for the future? Well, to me, in game 1, it was DJ Thomas. 7 points, 3 of 6 from the field. He was active defensively, had a nice assist on a break. You're sometimes used to seeing freshman big men turn that over, but he didn't. Got a nice pass, got a steal, got a rebound, and played a good bit of minutes. So he played well. And again, one of the questions I had coming in was, all right, which freshman is it going to be that's going to impress maybe in the early going? And so far, through one game, it's been DJ Thomas. Like what you see from him. Fourthly, another freshman that we've talked about, Jayden Forsythe, did not see the floor. He was dressed, ready to go in his jersey, but he didn't play. And I was a little caught off guard by that one. Definitely expected him to play. And I don't know if I would have picked him out of the 3, including Amir Jenkins, to be like the freshman that's going to make an early impact. But I might have, and he still might. But he didn't play tonight. And found that to be a little interesting. Curious to see what head coach Ross Hodge will say about that. But no Jayden Forsythe. That kind of caught me off guard. Fifth quick note, rapid reaction from the Mountaineers against Mount St. Mary's is the free throw shooting woes. Stop me if you've heard that before, Mountaineer fans. So Mountaineers, 23 of 35. They got 35 free throw attempts compared to 19 of Mount St. Mary's. And if it wasn't for Honor Huff going 7 for 7, that number would have been a little bit worse. It would have been 16 for 28 without Honor Huff. But 65% from the free throw line. You had Eaglestaff go 1 for 3. You had Lorient go split a pair. Obioha 5 for 8. All 5 of his points, by the way, coming from the free throw line. Jasper 6 of 9. And then Thomas, Amir Jenkins, and Morris Ugasuk all split a pair, 1 of 2 from the free throw line. So concerning, right? Free throws, knock your free throws down. Hodge said it in his halftime report there. You got to make your free throws, and that's something that this team certainly needs to improve on from game 1 to game 2 and as this season continues. Number 6, again, mentioned him already to go along with Jasper Floyd, but these North Texas transfers, if it were not for them, we could be very well sitting here talking about Mountaineers losing in an upset to Mount St. Mary's. Brennan Lorient is vital, will continue to be vital, will continue to be huge and massive for this team. He was great tonight. He had 11 points. He had 13 rebounds, 2 steals, an assist, and a block. Just active everywhere. A guy that's very versatile. He can play, 3, 4, 5. There were many, times when it was him and DJ Thomas on the floor together to go along with a 3-guard lineup of Amir Jenkins, Jasper Floyd, and Honor Huff. And Brennan Lorient went in there and collected 13 rebounds. He was big, and he's going to have to continue to be that. And it's not like a surprising thing that the 2 guys that played best are these 2 North Texas transfers that are comfortable in the system. But they were, without a doubt, the best players on the floor for West Virginia tonight. And without their performances, we might not win this game. Number 7, and kind of another obvious one, there's no Jackson Fields, who comes from Troy. And, NCAA tournament experience, and no Chance Moore, who I'm very big on. If you don't know already, if you're a regular listener to Mountaineer Moment, you know that I am very big on the St. Bonaventure transfer. Chance Moore sitting out the first 5 games, and then Jackson Fields out with an injury for a couple weeks or so. Obviously hoping to get both those guys back out there. But, I mean, they were missed tonight. And fortunately for West Virginia, they were missed, and it was in a winning effort. But there might be, if you don't get them back sooner than later, you might drop a game. And it's like, man, I wish we had those two, because they figure to absolutely be a part of West Virginia's rotation. No doubt about it. They might be coming off the bench, but they're going to be in there. If they're healthy, they're playing. And those are vital parts to this West Virginia team, and cannot wait to get them back. They were missed tonight, though it was in a winning effort. Number 8, touched on him a little bit already. Harlan Obioha was very quiet tonight. Again, all 5 of his points coming from the free throw line, just a couple rebounds. Hodge mentioned at halftime too that they were doubling on him and focusing on him, and he was making the right reads, making the right passes, off the block. And so, that's a good aspect of this, but he was quiet. And in the non-conference, again, against, teams with smaller defenders, you expect him to be able to play some bully ball. Hopefully we can figure some things out to get him more involved in the offense, because if you get him involved and if he really can pass the way that Ross Hodge says he can, then you're going to get some open shooters. Maybe that frees up Eaglestaff to knock down some shots and get his confidence going. But quiet Obioha tonight, though, again, in a winning effort. Number 9. And this isn't because, I saw Ross Hodge, freaking out on the sideline or anything, but if I would be kind of an unhappy head coach right now if I were him. So an unhappy Ross Hodge, just not necessarily with the effort. There were guys diving all over the floor for loose balls, and you love to see that. But chemistry, which is going to come with time, obviously wasn't fully there, and it's never going to be there fully on November 4th. Free throw shooting woes, obviously a concern. You got out-rebounded by Mount St. Mary's for whatever reason you want to chalk that up to. You just did, by a pretty considerable margin. Mount St. Mary's 38 rebounds, West Virginia 29. So just by 9, but it was a lot more early in that first half. So cause for concern a little bit. Cause for concern that would lead to, maybe an unhappy head coach. Happy that they got the win. Happy for him that he got his first win as Mountaineer head coach. But some things you got to work on and clean up, as to be expected in November. And then lastly, to that point, just not a pretty win, right? It was, you won the game. We talked about this in the initial recap. You win the game by 16 points against a team you should have beaten, against a team you probably could have and should have beaten by 20, 25 points. It wasn't pretty. If you play this game, play the way that you just did in January, February, March against Big 12 teams, you're not going to win. The good news is we're not in January, February, March yet. We're on November 4th. And so there is time to fix things. That's why you play these non-conference games. That's why you play these games against teams that you should beat, to help your team get chemistry and get better together. But this was not a pretty win. If you're just looking at the box score and say, oh, well, West Virginia won by, this many, 16 points, and Jasper Floyd had a great day, and, Trace and Eaglestaff just didn't really get involved. Bonner Huff, missed a few shots but made some, and Brandon Lorient was big, and Obioha was quiet. Looking at it in that regard, I don't think does it enough justice to point to how ugly this one kind of was at times. Again, you're winning by just 6 points at halftime, and it was a 6-point game with just a handful of minutes to go in the second half. The margin of 16 that you finished the game, winning by is also your biggest lead. So Mount St. Mary's did, to their credit, did a good job to hang around and, impose their will even at times. But you come out with a victory, and there's some things to clean up, some things to fix. But all in all, congratulations to head coach Ross Hodge and his first win as a Mountaineer head coach. Looking forward to many more. Again, this is Mountaineer Moment episode number 74. Mountaineer basketball team is back in action on Thursday night against Campbell. We'll be sure to have all the coverage for you here on Mountaineer Moment.